So Jill, tell your story. You worked in the medical field.
Yes.
So you've been told some terrible names.
Yes,
right?
The worst person in the world. Keith Olbermann called me the worst person in the world. He had that part on his show every night, and I got to be it one night for my pro-life activism. So it's my greatest honor, really. But thanks for having me on, and it's just an honor to be with all three of you. And my story is that I was a registered nurse at Christ Hospital on the southwest side of Chicago when I learned by accident that the hospital was involved in late-term abortions. And not only that, but the method of abortion that the hospital used, called induced labor abortion, sometimes resulted in babies being aborted alive. And if they were aborted alive, they were shelved to die in our hospital's department soiled utility room. So one night, a nursing coworker was taking a little baby who'd been aborted because he had Down syndrome and survived to the soiled utility room to die because his parents didn't want to hold him, and she didn't have time to hold him that night. And when she told me what she was doing, I couldn't let this suffering baby die alone, and so I cradled and rocked him for the 45 minutes that he lived. He was 21 and a half weeks old. This was 1999, and today they're saving babies this young, but back then it wasn't possible. But he was about the size of my hand, and he didn't move very much because he was using all of his energy attempting to breathe. And I remember toward the end of his life, I couldn't see if he was still alive unless I held him up against the light to see if his heart was beating against his chest wall because their skin is so thin at that age. And after he was pronounced dead, I folded his little arms across his chest. I tied them together with a little string, wrapped him in a shroud, and took him to the morgue where we took all of our dead patients. The hospital definitely knew that it was killing a human being. And the weight of what I knew was going on at Christ Hospital then just became too much. My life changed in 45 minutes from being, a personally pro-life but not really ever wanting to talk about it to just thinking about it 24/7. So went to the hospital authorities, asked them to stop. When they wouldn't stop, I thought these Christian people couldn't know what was going on in the labor and delivery department, just a couple floors over their heads. But they knew. And eventually I went public. When I was trying to decide what to do, whether to stay or leave, I came on a passage I thought spoke directly to me, and it's Proverbs 24:11 and 12. And it says, "Rescue those who have unjustly been sentenced to death. Don't stand back and let them die. Don't try to disclaim responsibility by saying that you didn't know. For the Lord who knows all hearts knows you knew, and he will reward you according to your deeds." And so I thought those were my marching orders. I was called to stay and fight. And so I did. I went public, testified before Congress, would literally fly to DC to testify and then come back and protest at my own hospital and then go to work. Maybe not that very same day, but that's kind of what it was like. Eventually got fired, and my life since then has just been dedicated to trying to stop abortion. And now we're at a very important moment when it could really get real here.
Right. So I was able to go to Poland. I was blessed to be able to go on a tour in Poland and talking about going to where a forest, it was like in a neighborhood, kind of, and you could still feel the heaviness of what happened there, of where they would just dump bodies into open graves and throw dynamite or whatever in there with babies and whatever. And that, but one of the things the guy told us about is at the concentration camps, these are just normal working people, and they're just trying to support their families, and they go to work and they're killing Jews. But it's us or them. Like, and it's kind of like people get put in a position like, I'm trying to support my family and live. I just have to do what I have to do. And they don't like it, but it takes a lot for you to be able to do that. You know, it's just you may not like it, but you have to go home and take care of your.
Yeah, if it had been another hospital, I would have left. But it was named Christ. And there's still, to this day, on my way to the airport yesterday, I passed it, and there's a big yellow lit up cross on the top of the hospital. And so I decided that I was called to stay and fight. But some people might have thought that they were called to leave, you know. And I was sad that during that whole experience that went on for 2 years, that only one other pro-life nurse spoke up. And either the pro-abortion nurses were mad at me for obvious reasons, or the pro-life nurses were mad because I exposed what was going on there. It had been going on for 20 years with nobody talking about it. Secretaries on the floor, nursing assistants, medical students, residents, doctors, of course, nurses, cleaning people, they all knew this was going on.
So what is your, like, I got to hear about the Nazi thing in Poland, but why do you think nobody says anything?
Why what? I'm sorry?
Why don't they say anything? Why?
I think it is because, well, it's either they're afraid of losing their job, they do need the money, or they don't want to speak up and be criticized. You know, the pro-life nurses were mad because they would go to church and people would come up to them and say, is this really going on in your hospital? And they were embarrassed. So I think it was just, but I still don't understand, Julie, why some people care more about what people think than what God thinks. I just still can't get that through my head, but it's true, they do.
So what kept you going? Because you did this for how long again?
2 years after, yeah.
It had to be a lot of adversity on your job every day, back to back.
Yeah.
What was it that kept you going and saying, you know what, I'm still going to stay consistent, I'm still going to stick to the course? Was it a particular scripture? Was it just that one time of holding that child? Was it a particular incident? What kept you forging forward for 2 years every day, despite the things that you had to suffer on your job?
I went on simply for God, simply because I didn't know what was going on at the hospital when I went there, but He knew. And so I thought that it was my job to stay there until He pulled me out. And it wasn't easy. It was, you know, I stopped getting invited to weddings, and, you know, people would stop talking when I come in the room. But it was nothing like martyrs have endured through the ages, you know, such as those innocent people in Poland. I never so much as broke a fingernail through the whole thing. So, you know, it's all relative, but that's what kept me going. But it got hard, and I was on final warning twice, 1 year final warning for twice. So the whole 2 years I was on final warning. And the last night that I went to the hospital, you know, I would play certain Christian songs over and over to like the 45-minute drive. And but I did say, God, you know, how long are you going to make me do this? And then it was a Friday night, and I was met at the time clock by my boss, which was an ominous sign when your boss is there. And I worked midnights on a Friday night, and sure enough, I was terminated. When she was walking me to her office and I knew this was it, I was like smiling and thinking, oh God, thank you so much. I'm done, I'm finished. And then I had to like put on my serious face, you know, because I was getting terminated, but I was really so relieved. Got escorted out of the hospital with security guards. It was all very exciting. Even made page 2 of the New York Times, but the whole endeavor was for God, and then also for that little baby, because that little baby's life meant something. And so I'm trying to make sure that it pay it forward. His life was sacrificed, but we want to make sure that others aren't. Good question.
Good.
I want to thank you for coming forward. That's very brave to expose what's going on and what you're doing now. I just love the program that you have going forward. And what can we do? Like, we have a little church in Canfield, Ohio. What can we do with our church to help? Or I know we've had, and we have mutual friends that are also involved with this, but I know you have this organization. Tell us about.
Yeah, thanks. I'm part of her plan, her Pregnancy and Life Assistance Network, and it is under the umbrella of Susan B. Anthony Pro-Life America, which is a large political pro-life organization. But this is an educational component, and our goal is to make sure, because there is a chance that Roe v. Wade could be overturned very shortly, and when it is, there's 22 states that are going to immediately or nearly immediately ban all abortions, and 8 more that are poised. So 30 states are close or there to overturning abortion, and we want to make sure that there's a safety net under pregnant moms. Abortion is just a symptom of a problem. There's something else going on in that woman's life. She's getting the abortion because she's getting beaten, because she's an opioid addict, because she doesn't know how to feed the kids she has now. How is she going to feed another one? And so we are providing answers, help for her in 25 subcategories. We know why moms say that they need abortions, and we're trying to make sure that there are life assistance providers in each state that cover every need she might have. It's online. A pastor gets a girl in his office who's 15 and get kicked out of her house if she doesn't get an abortion. He can turn around, type in her zip code, and get her immediate help. That's one half of what we do. The other half of what we do is get the churches to become more involved in life-affirming work. And that's my job. My dad was a pastor. My son is a pastor. I have a heart for pastors. I have a heart for churches. And so this is just a perfect fit for me to try and help churches in this moment coming up to step up. It's time for the church to rise up and give help to these moms. There's many reasons that pastors don't talk or do enough about the pro-life issue. They think it's political, and it's not. They're afraid of hurting women who've had abortions. They're afraid of losing, frankly, donors, members of the church, getting complaints, being asked, what do you do about rape and incest, and them not knowing the answer, so they just kind of shy away from it. But we're here. We have a Pathways to Life guide for churches with over 100 models in it to help them get involved. We're here to help them be good, be better at being pro-life, not to beat them over the head, but say, we're in a really big moment right now, and so here are ways that you can step in and help, either by working with other life assistance providers or starting your own ministry.
So you provide training. Do you go in and provide training to pastors, or is that something that they can do online? What would be, if a pastor were watching right now and said, hey, I want to get involved, what would be his or her next best step?
They would go to herplan.org, and we have this Pathways Guide online. It's personalized for the 4 states that we're in right now, but there's a national guide that any pastor can use, any church member can use. If somebody in your audience today is like thinking our church has to do something and they're not a leader, it's okay. Look in the Pathways to Life guide. There's easy things that you can do, like have a diaper drive, to more difficult things that you can do, but important things like start a food bank, start a food pantry. There's a wide spectrum of ways to get involved. We're just saying, get involved. We have ideas for ways that you can get involved. We've got links that you can go. This isn't just like, oh, you should try this. No, the ideas that we have are already being done somewhere, and we give a guide on how pastors and churches can, if they're interested in a certain ministry that's outlined, that how they can become more involved, how they can do it right.
Hey everyone, hope you enjoyed the video. To see more like this, be sure to hit the subscribe button below. Get all the latest content from TCT Ministries. We'd love to pray alongside you for God's blessings in your life, so you can email your prayer requests to prayer@tct.tv or click the link below and submit your request at tct.tv. God bless you and thank you for watching.